Welcome to Wednesdays with Willa. I am your host, Willa White, and this is my weekly podcast show that airs on Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern on my Facebook page, Willa White Medium, and also goes out on the Lilydale Assembly Facebook page and will be uploaded later to my YouTube channel as well. So lots of places you can tune into it live, or you can watch the replay later on. This is year 7 of Wednesdays with Willa. So I've been having a lot of fun throughout the years. I have a lot of great guests that come on, and we have wonderful topics that we cover, usually relating to spiritualism, mediumship, healing, faith, family, and more. And it's just wanted to let you know there are other Lilydale radio shows that you can tune into throughout the week, and you can check those out on the Lilydale Assembly Facebook page. I'll have something slightly different to offer throughout the week. And the Lilydale Assembly summer program for 2024 is available on the website, lilydaleassembly.org. So you can start registering for classes and figuring out where you're going to stay for the guest houses, or your favorite medium who you want to book with, because things are booking up fast for this particular summer season. And I'm delighted to welcome back onto the show, Shannon Taggart. Thanks for being here today, Shannon.
Thanks for having me back. I love coming on.
Yes, Shannon, I've known Shannon for decades, literally
Literally.
decades.
Spoon
And
bending
yes,
back
that's
in the
right,
day. Yeah.
back in the day. And I just think it's wonderful the work you've been able to do throughout the years. For those of you who do not know who Shannon Taggart is, she is the author of the book Seance, as well as being a spirit photographer and artist in her own right. And she facilitates and coordinates the summer symposium of all of the science of things spiritual. So it's always a different set of lectures that she has during the summer, and it's usually a weekend that's highlighted in July. And we're going to be talking about that 2024 summer symposium that Shannon's so generous and so wonderful in her time to get together a lot of folks that are from all over the world. And she's going to highlight those for you today so that you can get excited and mark your calendars. So Shannon, why don't we start with what are the dates that your event is happening?
Okay, so the dates, I should first mention that this is actually the 10th year.
Oh, it's the 10 years now. Wow.
Technically, the 10th anniversary of this event. It started in 2014, and it's had many iterations, like throughout those 10 years. We used to be in Susan Barnes' Spirit Art Gallery. There was one year we were in the library. We were, a one-day event in Assembly Hall for a number of years. And now this year it's a 2.5-day blockbuster, but there's additional events too. So the dates, there's an opening event Thursday, July 25th, at 8 p.m., which is Weird Studies Live, a podcast that's going to be recorded live. It's my favorite podcast, and they discuss all kinds of topics related to the programming that I have on. And so then there'll be 2 full days, Friday, July 26th, Saturday, July 27th. But this year has a special addition to it. The Sacred Grounds Coffee House in Lilydale is hosting a number of free events in conjunction with my event. And those actually start on Wednesday, July 24th.
Wonderful. I think it's great that it's been running for 10 years went like that, didn't it?
I know. I remember because I was pregnant with my son the first time I conducted this, and somehow, through many different trial and error, it became this, blockbuster event. And now we're in the auditorium. So
Yes.
last year was the first time we were in the auditorium, and this year we are it again. And I think it's a great honor to be hosted in the auditorium. And also that is the thing that brought me to Lilydale. Was my cousin got a message from my grandfather from a medium in the auditorium. And that message brought me, so it has really, really special meaning to me. And so I'm really excited about this new form that the program has taken.
Oh, yes. And I think it makes sense to have it in the bigger venue area so that people can really spread out and have that
Yeah.
understanding. And people, I mean, last year you had music on the stage with someone who was
Yes.
sharing spirit music that
Yeah.
has been shared, and other things like that where they've had the big screen down so they could do their PowerPoint presentations and whatnot.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, it makes sense for it to be in there. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Lilydale, I do encourage you to look back at the archive videos of Wednesdays with Willa. I have a wonderful virtual tour of the Lilydale Auditorium that is there for you, as well as some of the other buildings that are very special to our old location. Lilydale is an old, quaint village. So we've got a lot of great old buildings, and there's a wonderful energy that's built up in this particular place. And the auditorium has featured many people throughout the years that are quite famous, and a lot of joy and messages and song that have been shared in that space. So yes, and I know in terms of your own journey, you've been coming to Lilydale for many years now,
Yes.
and you've had the opportunity to really observe and to highlight some of the beautiful things that are here and also around the world relating to spiritualism. And you've been able to connect and network with a lot of people who maybe didn't have not like in spiritualism themselves, but they've studied aspects of it, and you're kind of bringing those together. Wouldn't you say in the past you've explained to me that you're trying to merge those arenas of the scientists and the artists and
Yes.
everyone that has kind of touched into those spaces because they bring a different understanding, a more sometimes more academic understanding to spirit.
Yes. So the impetus for the symposium is that when I started to think about putting a book together, I realized a lot of people didn't know much about spiritualism. Like when I would show my photography to photographers, they they had never heard of spiritualism, so I'd have to spend this time introducing the topic. And also because spiritualism is such like has such a deep history, and the practice varies so much, I had to do a lot of my own research. And I started going to conferences, and I was meeting people who were studying spiritualism or speaking about it academically at these conferences, but they had never been to Lilydale, and some had never even met a spiritualist. So I was like seeing this gap between the practice of spiritualism and the history, the study, the theory of spiritualism. So the idea is kind of to bring those two worlds together. And so the science of things spiritual, the original name that the program has, um, it kind of speaks to that alchemy of bringing two different forms of knowledge, book knowledge and lived experience knowledge, kind of bringing those things together. And
Yeah.
so the series for the summer, it's with that in mind, and I want to look at all this exciting new history that's being uncovered about spiritualism,
Mhm.
because this is for a long time, spiritualism was written out of many history books. It was censored by academia and the media, and we know why, because of the materialist worldview, that it in our culture is written out. And so now, for many reasons, people are revisiting this history, and I always want to highlight that. And we can talk about each one individually, but I also try to do topics that are unusual or about the supernatural in culture or strange science or bizarre history, like try to make it very because I've always loved those topics and reading about those topics. And so trying to make it like bring together people who are interested in this, for the art, for the science, for the story. So that's the goal.
Yeah. And you really do weave that together well. And I know it's a balancing act to get all of these people from various places to come together, but it really
Yes.
does in the end, and it's really beautiful. So let's get
Yeah.
started.
Okay.
The first as you said, there's the podcast that happens on that
Yeah.
Thursday night. that people can be part of. And oh, before we go, they buy a ticket for all the days.
Yes,
We want to make that
yes.
clear.
Well,
So,
yes. So
yeah,
you can buy a ticket for all 3 days. So that would be the Thursday night, Friday all day, Saturday all day, and then there's the free events that are happening at the coffee house, which I'll explain. And then if you like, if you prefer, you could buy just single day events. So you could just buy Thursday, you could just buy Friday, or you could just buy Saturday.
right.
Um,
But you
and
can't buy the lectures in a single way. It has to be a day ticket
yeah, it
for
has to be
over
a
the
day
course of the
ticket.
days. Just want to make that clear to
Yeah.
everybody. So as we break this down for you, you're going to want to attend more than one lecture.
Yes, yes. So we're gonna, so the kickoff, the technical kickoff for the paid ticket is Thursday at 8. But before that, on Thursday from 4 to 6, we have a very special exhibition that has been especially created for us by this really cool artist and musician who's well known, named Tim Kerr. And you have to see it to believe it. Willa, you're going to be really surprised. I think when you see it, it's going to be installed. It's like a pop up. And so his opening is 4 to 6, and he's going to play some music, and that's free. And then Thursday we have the podcast, and then Friday morning, it's a marathon, starts right at 9 a.m.
Yeah, bring your seat cushion. That's what I do. I
Yeah.
bring a seat cushion.
We are going to kick off with the making of Magical Cornwall with Amy Hale. And last year, Amy was with us. She spoke about the artist Ethel Calhoun, who she kind of originated all the scholarship on this lost surrealist woman artist. So I wanted Amy to speak about Cornwall because Cornwall is a magical place in a lot of ways. It reminds me of Lilydale. It's a story. It has a storied history. It has myth and magic surrounding it. It's there's magical practice, ancestors. All of this comes alive in Cornwall. And so I just thought it would be really cool to do a talk about Cornwall in Lilydale. And Amy lived there for a number of years, and she explained to me, even when we were doing the write-up, and I said, oh, well, we'll say it's in England. She's like, no, people in Cornwall never say they're in England. And so we're going to learn it's a totally unique culture, and learn why it's so storied and why it has this connection to myth and magic in the imagination. So that'll start. And then at 10 a.m., uh, Asti Hustvedt, who has spoken before she wrote a wonderful book about hysteria
Mm,
in the 19th century called Medical Muses. And it's about she takes it from the female experience, and um, telling the women's stories of the hysteria. So she has been researching Eusebia Palladino, who, as we know, is one of the most famous mediums of all time. She was studied by all of the well-known scientists of her day, including 4 Nobel laureates. People are still talking about her incredible mediumship and what was really going on there, because she was caught cheating, but at certain times, but there were other times where it was absolutely without a doubt she was boggling minds.
mhm,
And so I love this work that Asi is doing, because she's really going in like Eusebia as the woman, and kind of giving more dimension to her story,
mm,
and
mm.
really doing a deep dive into her life, and really amplifying the mystery, because there's a lot of mystery. Like, it's easy to say, because Eusebia would even say, hold me tight or I'll cheat. Like, she was famous for, and what she meant by that is, it's easier to cheat, but I can do it. But, like, I'll be compelled to whatever's going out, I'll be compelled to just fake it. So you got to make your restraints really,
I think that's
really.
her adding to the drama then too.
Oh, yes. And there was a
The drama.
lot of,
She's a drama.
yes, there's a lot of drama surrounding Eusebia. So, and it's going to be a wonderful talk. I'm just so excited.
Yeah.
And there's no way anything about Eusebia could be boring, but Asti is just a master at this research, though. So it's going to be really great. And then at 11 a.m., we have Acid Queen, Rosemary Leary, Woodruff Leary's life underground. So she was the ex-wife of Timothy Leary, who was, originated a lot of the LSD research in America. And so it's with my friend Susanna Cahalan. And Susanna became well known for a book, a memoir that she did about her own life called Brain on Fire, where she actually had a autoimmune disorder that made her like totally, she was not herself.
Wow.
And she was a reporter at the New York Post, and she didn't understand what was going on with her. They put her in an institution, and she could
Dang.
have been institutionalized for her entire life. But a renegade doctor figured out that it was an infection in her brain, and she healed, and she was able to bring herself back. And she's helped other women and children like diagnose and learn, and so she's saved a lot of people, and she's just a really cool person. And I actually met her because I was hired to photograph her for Reader's Digest when her book came out, so this is a number of years ago, and we've been friends ever since. And it's just so cool to see her like be well and continue her
Mm.
amazing career. And so this is her third book. And what I like about this, I know that a lot of people, Lily Dale is very much, we use our own minds. We're not using
Right.
substances,
You're right.
but a lot of people do get to the spiritual side through psychedelics. And so the story about Rosemary Leary is interesting because she was a woman who was searching spirituality through these psychedelics, but also she was almost written out of history. She's sort of like, she helped Timothy Leary do all the things that he did in the world, but she was kind of written out of his biography after they divorced.
Mm.
So I love all this research telling the stories of the lost figures, both men and women who have, like, were important
Right.
but kind of like forgotten. So that's what that'll be about.
Yeah,
And
that's been a theme for Shannon. Just for people who don't know, that's a theme for Shannon. She came on the show one time and did a wonderful presentation about Hilma af Klint. And turns out she's the mother of abstract art. So it's
yeah,
just like that has been rediscovered. So Shannon, definitely that's one of your passions.
yes, yes. And so, and actually, like, speaking of, on the same time, the next presentation, so we always take a really long lunch break. So
Yes.
even though you're getting like all this information thrown at you, it's very visual. We try to make it, because it's summer, it's learning, but it's also interesting learning.
Yes.
But we take a really long lunch break, and you can even go to the stump at 1 if you want on your lunch break. So then we're back at 2, and the next speaker is exactly the kind of stuff I want to feature. So this is a man named Anton Wagner. He's a theater guy. He has a PhD. He's written books about theater, but he's done like 20 years of research. He's Canadian, on the Canadian Prime Minister Mackenzie King, who was a spiritualist. And he was their prime minister for, like, he's the longest serving prime minister in Canada. I had never heard of him, but I mean, he was like 22 to 1930, and then again 1935 to 1948, like that era. But
Hmm.
he was a complete spiritualist. He was connected with mediums from Lilydale. Um, and this has been written out of his biographies.
Wow.
And so Anton spent like, it's a this 2 volume, like, huge biography, like, explaining that all of Mackenzie King's spirituality and how it was written out and what he was doing. And then Anton's going to talk about how Lilydale was really, like, really important to Canadian spiritualists, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like a touchstone, and a lot of all the famous Canadian spiritualists were involved with Lilydale, connected with Lilydale, including the Aykroyd family.
Hmm.
And so Samuel Aykroyd, who's Dan Aykroyd's great grandfather, would come to Lilydale. And so he's going to talk about all this Canadian Lilydale connections and Mackenzie King,
Great.
um championing this lost history. So yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
So then after that, we have it's a fun talk because it's more interactive. So there's a man named Brandon Hodge, who he actually is part of the group. I'm drawing a blank on what I think ISSP. They go and they
Oh,
save all these spiritualist materials and put them online for free.
hmm.
They've worked with, Mandy at the museum when she was there, like they've been to Lilydale and digitized materials. So Brandon is part of that group, but he has a absolutely um like very unique and huge collection of devices that were used to talk with spirits, and not just Ouija boards, but planchettes and talking machines and all these things that were early on in spiritualism used. Now we know that the Ouija board is not really, part of a medium's practice. But originally, when that's how it was born, though, it was
Hmm.
early on used. So he's going to bring some of his devices to act. So actually, some of these artifacts you can see them, and then explain the history and talk about all these different apparatuses that were used, including trumpets too.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
so the devices that were used in spiritualism. He's going to speak about, and we'll get to like handle some of them in real life.
Wonderful.
And then the next one for Friday is myself.
Right.
I will be speaking about the topic of my next book, which is it's about a group called SORAT, which stands for the Society for Research on Rapport and Telekinesis. Um, I had hosted a previous year, I think it was 2019, I hosted a sociologist named Jim McLennan who wrote a book about this group. And I knew that they had done photographs. And I was interested in their photographs, because I'm interested in spirit photography, obviously. And Jim, it's very long story, which I'll get to in the presentation, but I helped save the entire archive. And it's an absolutely massive archive of seance photography, not only photography, films, spirit writing, spirit letters.
Yeah.
And this group was started by the American poet John Neihart, who wrote the book Black Elk Speaks.
Hmm.
And it's really confusing because people either like say, yes, I've heard of that book, or no, I've never heard of it. It was a
Sure.
big bestseller in the early 1970s.
Hmm.
Um, it was actually written in the 30s, though, and during the post counterculture, America was really into this book. And John Neihart started the Seance group with his students, and it went on for 50 years. And the story is really unbelievable, and I'm extremely excited about it. The pictures are like no other. It's a totally unique collection of spirit photography, and it's all in color. And so I'm going to screen some of their films too.
Oh, that's great.
Yes. And so then to end the day, so we have a speaker named Kristen Gallerno. She is a curator of technology at the Ford Museum in Detroit, the Henry Ford Museum. But so she's going to talk about but she does her own field work too. She's a musician and she's into sound. And so she's actually we broke her proposal into two talks because it was too much for one talk. So this is her she's going to talk about talking objects and field recordings and the idea of sound and the paranormal. She wrote a really amazing book about that. She grew up as a spiritualist in Canada. So her personal history is also tied into this. And it's a multimedia performance, and I know her work so well, and I know it. I mean, like I'm such a fan of her work, and I know it's going to be amazing, but I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen because it's going it's going to be a surprise even to me. But she's going to talk about field work. I think she's done different types of recordings related to paranormal spaces.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So it's kind of like mixing art and field work and the study of technology. So it's kind of
Very cool.
experimental talk. So then we break, so we'll probably be done about 5:45. So that then, we'll have dinner and like a rest, and then back right at 9 a.m. on Saturday. And so this first talk is by Suzanne Flores, who does a really great podcast called the Extraordinary Project. I've been on I've been on one of her episodes. This is her third season. So and it's all about exceptional experience or extraordinary experience. And so this is Suzanne has done a lot of research and reporting on the topic of remote viewing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've never hosted a talk about remote viewing, but I kind of wanted to, I said, can you explain how it's similar yet different from mediumship?
Right.
And because it's not the same thing as mediumship, and remote viewers, a lot of them go to Las Vegas and try to gamble together, like it's a totally different culture, a totally different practice, like,
Right.
and Suzanne, but it is connected,
Yes.
it does connect. So Suzanne is an expert, so she's going to introduce it, but also she's going to tell a story about how it's kind of long and involved, but she ended up connecting a remote viewer she knew with somebody with a cold case criminal investigation.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so she did a podcast about like documenting what happened when she helped facilitate this connection and what happened. And so it's going to be the story. She's going to introduce remote viewing, but then tell us what happened with this story about this missing woman named Dawn from she was only 24 years old and she went missing in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. So it's kind of mixing true crime and remote viewing. And Suzanne is a really great storyteller and a great writer, so it's going to be interesting. And then the second talk that morning is it's called Marjorie the Medium Revisited with Anna Thurlow. So I'm thrilled about this talk because I think Marjorie the Medium she's like Eusebia. She's one of the most provocative, storied mediums in the history of spiritualism. She's from a different era. She's from a later era, from Boston. She's American. I have pictures of Marjorie in my book, Seance. And so Anna is Marjorie's great granddaughter. And her mother was a anthropologist. So that would be Marjorie's granddaughter. And she was writing a book about Marjorie and she passed before she was able to do it. And so Anna is sharing part of her mother's research on her great grandmother. And she's going to show us rare pieces from the family's archive. She's going to tell us the behind the scenes stories of Marjorie and Houdini and what happened, what she thinks really happened between them, because Houdini famously debunked Marjorie and tried to humiliate her publicly. And so it's another story along the line of Eusebia, but Anna is going to tell the woman's story, and she's also going to tell how Marjorie was, what she was like as a mother, and she was an artist in her own right, and like kind of how, you know, she had this scandalous newspaper, life in the public eye, but she's going to kind of tell us more of the story of the woman.
Yeah, the real person behind all of that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's going to be great. I'm really excited about it. And then at 11 we have Kristen Geller coming back because she at the Henry Ford Museum, where she's a curator, she saved an archive of a woman named Lillian Schwartz, who was a experimental filmmaker and a digital artist. And she was doing stuff about creativity and technology, and she made these really interesting films. And Kristen curated a whole show of Lillian Schwartz that I was able to see last summer, and it was incredible. And this woman's work is incredible. And again, it's this theme of saved history. So Kristen was able to save the archive and bring it to the Ford Museum, and a lot of she's been restoring her films.
Mm,
So we're gonna see some of Lillian's films, and they're made in the films are intended to produce like heightened states of awareness, or
mm,
they're supposed to interact. They're like meditative in a way, like Lillian was using technology to play with perception. She was using these films to change perception. So, we had that theme earlier of using drugs to do that. Now Lillian's going to try to do that with technology and a film, right? And so it's kind of funny because last year's program I had this loose book theme of books, and so this year is more a theme about films because I'm going to be showing some
Hmm.
films, and Lillian's going to be, or Kristen's showing Lillian Schwartz films, and we have more films coming up soon. So
Great.
um I'm almost to the end. I know it's it's
No, no, it's great. It's showing people that there's a lot of meat to this program.
yeah, yeah. And it was all about like, I guess I'm always thinking of the right combination of themes and people and topics, and so then we have a nice long break, and then at 2 p.m. is the very provocative topic of the mysterious fires of spontaneous human combustion with Larry Arnold. And I put it after lunch because a lot of people are like, oh no, that's too much for me. I can't go to that. So it's like, okay, well, if this is too much for you, you can sit it out because it is, I mean, it's a provocative topic, but it's also like a really crazy topic, I mean, and it's very intense and mysterious. But I have to tell you, as if you're going to learn about spontaneous human combustion, it should be with Larry Arnold because he is legitimately, without question, the world expert on spontaneous human combustion. I actually met him at a conference that I spoke at in 2015, and he's great, and it's like his lifelong research on this topic. He wrote this book Ablaze. It's like a doorstop book about, he does his own original research. Like if anybody's consulted, he's done so many documentaries. If you look or go to his site or Google Larry Arnold Blaze, he's been on the Science Channel, Discovery, like all of those. He's really the person who is the world expert on the topic. And so Larry is going to do, we talked about, because he's done this talk many times, but he said, I'm going to tailor it especially for Lilydale. So he's
Mhm.
writing his standard talk especially for Lilydale, and he wants to consider um, the spiritual meaning or the spiritual perspective or spiritual
Oh.
kind of themes that he sees in this phenomena. And, for me, uh, spontaneous human combustion was one of the first things that I ever read about that was strange science, where I became, really enthralled. I think I was like 13 and I read an article about like spontaneous human combustion. So for me, it's always been one of the things that drew me into strange science or unexplained science.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I've talked to a number of people who have said that it's a topic that's originally tweaked their interest in such things. So that'll be at 2 o'clock. And then after, we have a really special guest, Jay Gordon Melton, who he in academia, he's a famous academic for studying American religion. And so he's been 50 years studying the religion of America. He's one of the first people to do scholarship on Scientology as an American religion. He was involved with a spiritualist group. I'm forgetting the name of it, but where it was trying to merge spiritualism with mainstream religion.
Mhm.
It's in the write up. So he was a minister with that. He's been all over the country studying every strand of unique American religion, including spiritualism. And he's written over 50 books. Like his bibliography is so long, you can't even, you have to select from it. So he's really knowledgeable about what makes American religion or religion in America unique. And he's going to talk about his whole life uh, studying all of these things and give us like little
Little
snippets of,
nuggets of those. Mhm.
yeah, yeah. And he's coming in from Texas just for the event. And he was supposed to talk, I think in 2017, but he had to cancel because he consults other governments about religion. And so he last
Oh.
minute he had to go on a trip where his expertise was needed. So it's really exciting that he's finally going to make it to Lilydale. And so then we're going to end the day on Saturday with a blockbuster event. So we have the filmmaker Jody Wiley, who so she Jody just did a documentary about uh this group called the Unarians in California. And so they're like, it's a very positive, healing UFO group, though. Like they're really into UFOs, but the founders were actually spiritualists and they met at a spiritualist convention.
Mm.
And it became this really big new religious group in California. And they have like, they wear really wild, provocative clothing. And they did a lot of films to share their message and their past life regression films kind of, and it's very much grounded in spiritualism, but it's totally its own thing also. And so this group made a TV show that was on public access television in California, and it's absolutely beautiful and wild and really like nothing you've ever seen. And so Jody made a documentary about this group, but she's going to share this, explain the group and the story and their history, but then she's going to screen one of their very rare films that they made about themselves. So
Mm.
it's a film that Unarius made about about themselves, and it's recently restored. It's hardly ever screened. We had to get special permission to screen it, and we were given that permission. And so Jody's going to do a talk and explain what Unarius is, and then we get that special screening, and then that's the end of the program.
Wow.
You'd have to see
Basically,
the film stills. It's really
yes.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a wild weekend. All the different things that you again, as I said, you weave them together, and it's always a unique tapestry every
Yes.
year that
Yes.
you do the summer symposium. And I think people, having you go through and talk about it is very good for them, because just looking at the dry words of, oh, hey, there's this symposium in Lilydale for the summer, and they might recognize some names but not others, and
Mhm.
it really helps to have some explanation behind it so that they can feel more like, okay, yeah, that piques my interest. I could go for that. And other people are going to say, I want the whole weekend. So they
Yes.
can do that. You can go ahead and register for your tickets on the lilydaleassembly.org website. You can also go to Shannon Taggart's website as well, right? They can
Yes.
get from there.
Yes. And so if you go to shannontaggart.com and go to my events, it's right on the you'll see it. It's very easy. And also I want to mention that this Sunday, starting this Sunday, March 3rd, I'm presenting a few of last year's presentations redone for a place in the UK. So they'll broadcast afternoon US time. But if you missed some, not all of them, but a few of them, and some of them they're restructured a little bit, and some of them are a little bit different, but we're going to re-welcome some of those speakers, trying to
Mm.
get, and we're going to tell those people in the UK about Lilydale and tell them about the symposium, and also have this redo. So if you missed last year, you're curious, that is up on my website too under events. We're going to represent some of the ones that I talked with you about last year, and Willa was
Right.
there, so
Yeah,
you
I was there for the
she
summer
experienced
symposium.
it. Yeah.
And I've been coming for some years now. It's always interesting. Sometimes I have to cherry pick what I'm going to attend throughout the day because of my busy schedule.
Yeah.
But it's always a good experience. And you can even look back at the archive videos of Wednesdays with Willa from when we talked about the 2023 Summer Symposium, if you want to have a sense of what happened last year, as Shannon was talking about. But I think it's nice that you're doing a redo, and that way people can have a taste of last summer's events and get
Yeah.
primed for this year's.
Yeah, online, but this year we're only live, so you have to, if you want to experience it, you have to come live, which
That's right.
yeah, I love the idea, post COVID, of having everybody together in real space. And so yeah, and I've also had people tell me, I didn't really like, I saw this list of talks and I thought, I'm not going to be into some of this. I'm only into part of it, but that they end up liking things that they didn't expect that they would like. So I really
Yes.
do try to bring, even though it's coming from all different angles, I really do try to bring things together that are going to be generally enjoyable for the whole audience.
Absolutely. And I've even featured some of your speakers on my show before, the ones that I
Mhm.
really in particular enjoyed, and
Yes.
they're just really good-hearted people, and you can tell they're doing what they can to understand and also bring light and further discussion to spiritual matters. So it's really beautiful that you have this planned.
Thank
Anything
you.
else you'd like to share with folks today before we
No, just
close?
that I have a mailing list. If you are interested in the program, please sign up for my mailing list. If you have any questions about traveling to Lilydale or about the program, please email me. I also too, if you happen to be in Lilydale that Tuesday, I'm going to do a book event at the coffee shop, you know, and then Wednesday we have another artist in residence named Gabby Abreu, and she's going to interview Stacy, one of the owners from the coffee shop, about like being a medium and also, having the being in Lilydale. And so yeah, there's a lot to go through. And if you have any questions, email me.
Yeah, Shannon's really open to explaining and helping people get what they need about that. And so yes, look forward to those dates in July, and also lots of other great events that are happening throughout the summer here in Lilydale. Ticket sales are already starting, and it's going to be a big, beautiful season. So as I said earlier on in the show today, go ahead and get things booked when it comes to your guest house or your
Yeah.
hotel, or so you get your lodging figured out. And there are guest houses that are in Lilydale, and you can find the accommodations listing on the lilydaleassembly.org website. And also, if you are during your stay, if you're wanting to get booked in with a medium, do so now, because
Yes.
the schedule gets very booked in, and you can't. That's something you can't wait on. So, based on the number of mediums and the number of people that want readings and all the other events that are happening throughout the day. So the list of the daily events are on the lilydaleassembly.org website, the accommodations and the mediums, and of course, purchasing your ticket for the symposium and many other things. So
Yes.
thank you for
Yeah.
being on the show today, Shannon. It's really
Thank
great that
you
you were
for
able to share.
having me. I always look forward to it and look
Yeah.
forward to seeing you. And thank you for your support.
Absolutely, absolutely. So everybody like and share and follow and subscribe for my page for more great information about what's happening in Lilydale and other great shows that I have to offer for you. All right, everyone, you be well. Bye-bye.